Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Daddy's Barbecue Pit. This week, we got something a little special for you. First of all, we got my buddy here, Russell Wright from Right On Cue. And today we're gonna cook an Australian A9 Plus brisket that we sourced from the Butcher Shop down in Pensacola, Florida. First thing we're gonna do is get started on this and do some trimming. Russell's gonna walk us through that. Right now, this is a 16-pound Wagyu brisket.
All right, so today, like I said, we're gonna take and trim this thing up a little bit. We're not going to do a ton of trimming like what we would do. Normally we do a lot of comp briskets that we get from the butcher shop, but today we're just going to trim around these edges, get this thing cleaned up good, and we're going to put this on the smoker and cook it low and slow overnight and see what we can do with it. We've ordered several of these briskets before from the butcher shop. These things are unbelievable. A lot of people are so scared to cook these kind of briskets because they're afraid they're going to mess them up. Look, these briskets, you can see this thing in the pack. It is so soft and so tender. These things have so much marbling in them. They are hard to mess up. I promise you, these are really good briskets. Like I said, we're gonna trim this thing up. When we trim it up, we're gonna take all the trimmings and we're gonna make ground beef out of it. So if you take these things and make the ground beef out of it, you may get 3 or 4 pounds of ground beef out of this. So let's just say one of these things run you $200. You're looking at 15 pounds or $15 a pound for ground beef. You get 4 pounds out of that. Now this brisket only costs you 140 bucks. Well, you go to Costco, you're gonna spend $100 on a brisket at Costco, Kroger, Publix, anywhere like that. And I promise you, it's not gonna fold over like this. There's no way. So
choice grade.
Yes, it's not gonna be nowhere near the quality of this brisket here. So we're gonna get this thing out of the pack. We're gonna trim it up. And we're gonna get it on the smoker.
This out of your way.
That's paper towels. All right, this side right here, this is your bottom side. This is where your point's going to be. You can see the marbling in here from this Wagyu. You know, you can see how this thing has really got a lot of the fat trimmed off of it. So when you get one of these other briskets, they may have a fat cap on it that's probably that thick or so. This thing does not have that. I mean, so there's not a lot of stuff to trim off of this thing. Like I said, this is the point end down here. This is where a lot of people will get your burn ends or the fatty slices that they like to call them. And then this side here, this is where your flat is. Now, if we were doing a competition, we would take and separate this thing right through here, and we would pull that flat out and just probably cook just flat. But today for us, we're gonna cook this thing whole. We're gonna trim it up around here and get all this thin stuff off, and this thin stuff is what we'll end up making, you know, just some ground beef with. But I'm gonna get all this extra fat, this silver skin off right here, and we're gonna get this thing cooking. Trim some of this.
So that we're gonna save. We'll grind that right up. Now, will this take longer or shorter with all that fat in there?
I mean, it really just depends on how you cook it. I mean, honestly, you know, we cook a lot of times when we do these in competition, we cook them hot and fast. You know, so we can cook them fast and get this thing done in a few hours. But you know, if we're going to do it low and slow, it all just depends on what temperature you're cooking at, really. cut just a and that's it, just so it lays a little more even. All right, we got this thing trimmed up now, and you can see the way this grain is running on this thing. And when we get ready to slice this, we're gonna slice it against the grain. That's what's gonna give you your most tender slices. And if you look, we didn't cut very much off that back side. We just kind of rounded some of the thinner edges off right there. And then we took a lot of the silver skin off of the top to kind of smooth this out, so we got a nice even surface right here when we go to put our rub on. So, I mean, like I said, this is a great brisket. I think we trimmed off probably close to 3 pounds. We'll take that and make some Wagyu smash burgers out of it eventually later on. But having almost 3 pounds of ground beef come off this thing is great. So anytime you trim up a brisket, try to save your trimmings, because they go a long way.
Yep. Even the fat you can use to make your own tallow if you want to.
Yes, you can. I mean, beef tallow nowadays is, I want to say a 16-ounce jar of it is about 20 bucks. So between the ground beef you can make and the beef tallow you can make, you can get money back out of what you get off this thing. So our first layer we're going to put on this is going to be Swine Life prime beef rub. We're going to put this on here and coat it real good, and then we're going to put a little finish on top with Riley's Beauty and the beef rub.
That prime beef's good.
Oh, it is. It's good stuff. It's got that umami flavor in it. So, I mean, it's really going to pack a good punch to this thing for brisket.
And you notice too, no binder. So we're gonna let this sit long enough with these rubs on it that a binder's not gonna be needed. This thing's gonna soak in a lot of these rubs that we're putting on for probably at least an hour probably before it even goes on the smoker, if not more. It's fine to leave it sit out and let these rubs work down in this meat. No injection. You can absolutely inject it if you want. A piece of meat like this, unless you're cooking competition, there's really no need for it. This thing's gonna have so much flavor that the rubs that you use on the outside, just use a good quality rub. Russell's hitting it now with some Beauty and the Beef from Steak Princess.
And it's going to give it that good mahogany color that you're looking for.
We have our Rec Tech set right now on a super low setting, so it's running probably, we'll show you before we stick it on, but it's running probably 195. Just gonna let it go low and slow until we get to the wrapping phase.
Now we'll just let it sit on here and let that penetrate that meat good. It'll draw all that out of there and it'll make a big difference. We'll come back and be able to see the color here probably 45 minutes or an hour. We'll see what kind of color we have on this thing. All right, so we got this thing seasoned up. You can tell, like we said, we didn't put any binder on it. We just put these rubs on here and let them soak in. And this thing has got a good coat on it. So now we're gonna take this and put it out there on the Rec Tech.
Yep. So again, we got this Rec Tech on super smoke. We're gonna let this thing just get a smoke bath all night long. And we'll probably be out here breaking early in the morning, show you what it looks like when it's time to wrap. Okay, so we're about 9 hours in on this brisket. And you can tell, I mean, the bark on this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's been running all night, about 185. We're gonna take it inside now. It's running right about 160 right now. Take it inside, wrap it in some butcher paper, get it back on. We're probably gonna crank this up a little bit. Maybe, what, 250, 275. Try to finish it off. Just gonna pull this probe out. Set it off to the side, we'll get this thing inside and we'll wrap it. We'll hold this. Just got some butcher paper here that we layered over. We're gonna try to keep this as tight as possible. Fold these sides in.
here.
Tuck that side in. Just like that, we're going to put her back on. Good. So we're going to head back on, right in the center there. Keep that all tucked around. We're going back in with our dot probe in here. Right back into that flat. We'll keep an eye on it. We're probably going to start looking at it about 200, see where we're at. We're going to crank this up to 250 right now. Our brisket has reached 211 and is probe tender. We smoked this at 185 overnight for about 10 and a half hours. When we wrapped it in the butcher paper, we bumped it up to 275, put it back on, and it's been riding for about 5 hours at 275, and it just hit temp. We got it real nice and tender. We're gonna go ahead and pull it off, put it in our Cambro and let it rest for a couple hours. We're gonna slice it up and eat it. I could have folded that thing in half.
Was it that soft?
Oh. Okay, so we're back. We have let this rest for about an hour and a half now. We're gonna go ahead, take it out of the butcher paper and see how it turned out. We're gonna cut it open.
All right, so we got this thing. You can tell it's pretty tender. It's flopping around pretty good. See, we got good bark on it. You can still see where the grain's running. We're going to take and slice this thing against the grain and see how it turned out. And this slicing pretty easy. Just slicing right through there with really no resistance whatsoever. I mean, you can look at that. I mean, we're still down on the other end. You can tell it just pulls apart. I mean, there's a lot of moisture in this thing still. So, you can keep going with it. But it's slicing real easy. And you can tell for the most part, it's not breaking off on the edges. So it's not, you know, a lot of times when you get these things overdone, these edges will just crumble on you. But you can see it's staying together good on those edges like that. And we're going to start getting into where some of that, you know, point is here in just a few minutes.
Got a lot of juice in it yet. Really nice bark, beautiful smoke ring on it.
I mean, this is a piece that's kind of been back in there a little bit. You can tell it's just, I mean, we didn't inject this thing at all, and you can tell. I mean, there's still a lot of moisture in this thing. And then this on this bottom part down here, this is from your point end. This is the fatty end that a lot of people make burnt ends with, you know. A lot of times we'll take and cut this up, trim it, make some smaller little cubes out of it. But yeah, I can go ahead and split that right there. And I can cut you some pieces on this fatty end.
You can see the juice in that. I mean, that's on the point end, and it's just, yeah, a piece jump right in my mouth. Mm.
I mean, you can tell it's just falling apart. All that fat in there is just basically disintegrated. You can see these Wagyu briskets, man. Don't be scared of them. They're easy to cook. I mean, they really are, and you can use them for a lot of different things. You can take and use leftovers and make you some brisket nachos, brisket mac and cheese. There's all kind of things you can do with this right here. So like I said, I know they can be kind of expensive, but you can use this and make 5 or 6 different recipes out of this thing and really get your money's worth. So don't be afraid to try one of these things and cook them at home. That bark is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bark is almost perfect. You cannot add, I mean, it's got a good salty crust to it. I mean, it is perfect. You can taste those umami flavors from that swine life. And then on that Beauty and the beef rub, it's got that good pop to it. So you get a little back end heat with it.
But not overly spicy.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, just a good combination. So,
And give this recipe a try. Don't be afraid to try a Wagyu brisket. Go to the butcher shop. They'll hook you up. Ask for Kevin. Get you some. It doesn't suck. So you gonna try it?